Greetings, Marsh here, and welcome to episode 19 of my modded Factorio playthrough. We've got a fairly large task in front of us. We've got to move some factory parts around and make room to expand. So let's get to that. This works for now, but kind of like I said before, the more you commit to it, the more work it's going to take later to fix it. And it's not that we can't do the green science, because we can just, do it down here or somewhere. We don't have to follow this mess. But the problem is after green science, we're going to start unlocking a lot more complicated stuff. Like the red belt and steel parts and all this other stuff that it's just going to get real messy. So we're not doing too bad right now. We have 50% of the sapphire left, and now that we're mining some stereotype, which, by the way, this system's worked pretty well. I think I had the splitter set on output priority rather than input priority, but after having it set right, this is about what you would expect, where one of them should be empty, because you can see that is where the copper is being supplied, and then the other one has a tiny bit of overhead. So luckily that worked. But I think we have a sufficient amount of resources to spend more time doing stuff, because we really want to get Prospector done by the time we run out of Saphirite. So, after reviewing things, here's kind of my idea. With Angel's processing, there's basically 3 steps. There's the sorting step, which we see done over here, where the end goal is sorting it through the ore sorting facility. And right now it's just crush and sort. It gets more complicated than that, but it's just crush and sort. Then the second step is turning it into ingots. Right now it's a very straightforward process where it just ore goes in, ingots come out. It gets more complicated than that, so we want to have room to expand. Also, since we get ore from different sources, right now we're kind of doing this system with the ingots because there wasn't room to do it with the ores, but it actually makes more sense to do it with the ores. So we'll need this kind of system in place between these 2 steps, and they're all spaced out. And then the final step, which actually looks pretty good, it's just getting crowded with other stuff, is turning those ingots into plates. So I was thinking that we could have, maybe starting right here, we could do the crushing and the sorting, so it would kind of extend out this way. And hopefully it wouldn't impact the water. It doesn't look like it based on its size. It'd be right here, and these are all going to be the same size of setups. They're not really going to change much. I'm not going to improve production right now since it seems quite okay. And then underneath it, it'll just go straight down, so it'll look kind of straight. Then there'll be the ingot stage, and then straight down from here will be the plate stage. We'll probably want to move this over here, but I guess it doesn't necessarily have to move. But and then the resources would come down and then come along here. They might actually come all the way down here to be underneath the rubite. And then we will move the bus and make it bigger, basically, and then have the bus go out this way. And this should clear everything out from in here, and that's kind of my idea. And another thing we can do in the setup is to have a dedicated stone production area. Right now we're crushing the slag into crushed stone and taking the crushed stone, turning it into regular stone, because that's the only thing we need it for right now. It won't be the case for much longer that we want to keep using up all of the stone. So it would make sense right now to separate the process. So basically our stone producing area right here, the stone brick, will be moved and made more complicated. Where it would go, I don't know. Somewhere over here, I don't know. Somewhere out of the way. But it would end up doing the same thing. But basically, I'm trying to space everything out to give us room to expand when we research or start on the green science. Because once we do, we're going to get all these new technologies, and there's going to be no room anywhere to put anything. The power, again, is kind of in a weird spot. It might get in the way of things. We might have to move it maybe up here. So that's something to consider. And the coal processing can be anywhere. And we'll need to eventually wall off to protect ourselves from biters. This is a really good wall area right here. It requires a minimum amount of walls to block that off. It's probably something we should do. I'm not sure exactly what that's going to look like, but we might have to do a big wall that way. And lots of biters to kill, so we can wander around freely. It's still nighttime. Luckily, we have the armor-piercing magazines to make that a little easier. Let's see, do we grab some fish? Yes, good. Then we need a ton of ammo. I don't mind dumping all this copper away because we'll probably need a ton of ammo to protect the wall with. And look at all those piercing rounds. I want to protect those rounds and not use them unless we actually need them. So for now, let's go up here, clear that out, and then start building a wall here. Or maybe down here since we actually have power. And then we'll see how close we end up to those biters and whether or not we need to kill them too. Fortunately, it's going to be nighttime while all this happens. I don't really mind making a bunch of copper magazines right now because that will mean we'll be using stereotyte and we will produce some free iron, which will slow down the rate of sapphirite usage. Alright, we're coming up to one of the... or a couple white nests, it looked like. Luckily, those ones are pretty easy to kill. So we shouldn't need the armor-piercing rounds for those ones. Uh-oh, full inventory. I want to kind of free up the inventory a bit so we can pick that stuff up. No. What to do? Okay, I'll put the mining vehicle down. Uh-oh. Well, we can use it as a storage chest, I suppose. Fortunately, this is all shallow water here that we can walk over. So we're going to need to start a wall below that point to prevent the biters from getting in. So the wall needs to start like right about here. And then go over. There we go. We can't walk through. Okay, because of this shallow water, again, we have to move the front of the wall all the way out to at least here. So we can't walk through there. Let's prepare for this fight here. Put the ammo there, the turrets there. The nanobots are helping. Whew. So you can see how it, even with these turrets, it's still quite difficult to kill them. Even with the armor piercing. Okay, that's connected. Biters won't be able to get through there. I'm not sure if I actually want to put turrets down yet, because that's going to require a ton of resources. I kind of like the idea of the wall being here just to keep the biters out, even though it won't be enough to stop them. First things first, probably want to move the steam. Where to put it? Well, it generates quite a bit of pollution. Kind of worried about that, but let's put it right up here. Might as well also expand to the full ratio. 20 boilers. We can afford it, I believe, with carbon. Yes. So we have 16 of them, so we need to have an additional 4 boilers. Let's use up the rest of the steam by picking up all these inserters. And letting it use up all of its steam. Okay, that's the new setup moved. We also need to get coal to be processed. We would end up using less transport belts if we processed it up here, but since coal is actually down here, it probably makes sense to process it where it's at. So I don't actually think we really need to move it right now. I mean, if we did, we would move it, like, up here. Actually, it kind of does make a little sense to move it. Okay. So I'm going to move it, like, up here to leave room for belts underneath for the raw ores. And then the carbon's going to come all the way up here. And then go back down to the belt where it was before. Finally, there's light. After so much darkness getting this set up. So I try to set it up the same way, where it's got these separate power networks here. So we have the burner turbine before the boilers here, because it was after. It's possible if it ran out of fuel, it wouldn't be able to get fuel if it was placed up here. So I put it before them so it has priority on the fuel, and then it powers the inserters and any other lights it has access to in the pump. Okay. So I'll walk you back what happened here. First, just ran a belt, a nice straight belt, all the way down from where the coal processing happens. And it's the same setup as before, nothing has changed. However, the way the belts were oriented did kind of change a bit. So I changed the priority here. So the priority is always given to this center one to make sure that it doesn't clog. Basically, it's always the one releasing its items, since it's producing both coal and stereotype based on their proximity. Oh, I guess I could place some miners here real quick. It's kind of one reason why I moved everything around, is because there's some coal patches here that the other miners wouldn't be able to reach. But these ones can. So rather than having the craziness here, the coal is just diverted. It goes through here to get crushed, but it also continues here because we needed coal all the way down here to make carbon dioxide. However, now I think about it, we can save that belt and just make the carbon dioxide up top. That would save us the pain of having to run a belt around. So I'll do that real quick. But first, just show you the rest of this, that the coal comes up here to get taken in. The carbon gets split. One of them goes up to go to power generation. The other gets split over here, and it gets split again. The bottom belt is the fuel belt, so it's the belt that takes whatever the best available fuel is. So if carbon isn't available, it will supplement it with just straight up coal to keep the factory going. Up top is pure carbon. And I just diverted the belt to the side here. So the fuel belt's on the left, the carbon belt's on the right. Sometimes it's kind of hard to tell which one's which. And it's kind of messy, but all these things are going to move, so it's not going to matter. I just wanted to hook it back up so the factory could keep operating. Now that we're picking up a bunch of resources, probably need to have a dump set up on all the various things we'll need the dump for. So how it can kind of work is you just put a splitter somewhere and give it an input priority to the side. Then you can put a chest down, a loaders, and then throw all your stuff in there, and then it will clear that up. Yeah, again, it's kind of cheaty, but this is just a convenience factor, I think. Just to fill the belts back up, because sometimes when you're moving belts around, it can get real monotonous sometimes when you have stacks and stacks and stacks of resources that you need to put somewhere. So yeah, part of the goal of this base redesign here is just to make it straighter and cleaner and space everything out to make room for all the green science tech that's going to come in. Well, we can just, after that, put in the liquefier here. Might have to end up moving this stuff, but if this ever needs to expand. But for now, let's just put it down. Underground pipes definitely are cleaner and take up less space than the equivalent belts do. It's not as easy to see the movement of product, but it is cleaner looking. Okay, see, look at that, nice and straight. Of course, it kind of goes out of the, zigzags and whatever, but all these things are going to be moved one step at a time, and eventually, like defragging your hard drive, eventually it's going to look clean, but in the beginning, not so much. Okay, now we need to move all of the crushing setups. And they're going to be basically starting on the other side of these pipes right here. It's like right around there. And now that we're here, it's probably time to redesign this a little bit to be a little simpler. Okay, so let's use crushed sapphirite as the guide. 4 ore crushers, 4 sorting facilities. But no processing of stone. So the idea is the ore comes in through the top, gets crushed. The part that can be direct inserted will be into these machines. The part that cannot will now use our filter inserters that we have access to because of circuits that we're making to play stuff on our junk belt. Meanwhile, these will all use filter inserters. Junk will go on the junk belt, and ores will continue down the line however it looks. So something like that. A pretty simple setup. It's a lot more compact because it's doing a lot less stuff than this is. And then it can be doubled as many times as necessary. I don't know if it's necessarily more compact. Actually, it probably is a little bit more compact, but we can butt them up right next to each other because we can walk through using this. I think we're probably pretty good on resources at this point, so hopefully I don't regret this, but I'm just going to start picking everything up now and replacing them as necessary. So let's cut that off and then just pick up all the machines we're going to need so we don't just make twice as many machines and then have them sitting in our inventory and have to reverse factory them or something like that. One other thing to keep in mind is how much total crushed stone and whatever we can actually have flying around. Probably quite a bit. So let's calculate it out. It's not going to be very complicated. We have 4.7 slag per second, which produces 9.4 crushed stone. So we want to take 9.4 away from this, which leaves 9. We add both of those together and we get 13.7. Which looks like the maximum amount of byproducts that we're going to have coming by at any given time, which is just barely 1 yellow belt. So I was just thinking of how much space do we need here. But 1 yellow belt will be fine. Okay, so far so good. These are the 4 ore setups. Sapphirite, Stereotype, Bobonium, Rubite. Let's see, let's do a loader into a chest, just for now. Then we'll move it once we have the processing set up. I just want to get rid of all these extra resources I have. Okay. We gotta think of the most efficient way to do it. For the straightest of belts. Let's see, Sapphirite is right here. Probably makes more sense for it to go straight up. And then over. Ah, nice straight belts of product. So from here, now that we're delivering the 4 input resources we need to handle all of these byproducts that we're collecting. So we've got to get stone processing moved and placed somewhere. However, that's the end of this episode, so we're going to have to save that for the next one. Thanks for watching.